He could bring a book out there and read a few pages before throwing the ball. It doesn't matter. So
Awesome.
yeah. So it's a little bit. I'm worried. Every time the Steelers go to Oakland, it does not go well. So
But yeah, I think the last couple times you guys have taken home in that L, haven't you? Have to pack that extra duffel bag.
I believe it's 3 in a row now.
Yeah.
The last 3 times they've been in Oakland. And Angria, I think we talked in July or August. I think you said something like, even if the Raiders are 4-12, one of those wins will be against the Steelers.
Probably,
so
yeah.
This is a very scary thing.
Oh my God.
So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. Everybody needs to listen to Just Win Ladies. You can find out the secret how Jenny can just bypass any airline, airport security line. That's an amazing trick.
I'm really upset at myself that I told everyone my secret, because now there's going to be super long lines.
Right. Everybody's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well. Travel Tips and Football by Jenny Lynn.
Exactly. Jenny Lynn at Jenny_wildfan. Angria Trask at Angria Trask.
Just plain old me. No lines. No waiting.
Okay. Guys, thank you so much. I love having you guys on.
Thanks for having us, Joey.
Jenny, Wildfan, go wild.
I'll see you guys.
All right.
Bye. Thanks, Joey.
Steelers and Raiders will get together this Sunday, and they don't play that often, but back in the 70s, they played a lot and had a great rivalry. With me to talk about it is Jim Jax. He is at Jim Jax Media and founder of For the Fan NFL podcast. Jim, how you doing?
Really good. How are you doing, Joey?
Doing great. So the Steelers and the Raiders in the 70s looked like had an amazing rivalry for a while there. When did you start following the Raiders?
I was kind of a little Jimmy in the very end of their time in Oakland. My father actually started going to the games in 1960 when he was just a teen. And they actually came out to the bars and restaurants and different places where young people were to create a fan base. They would actually give away some free tickets. The Raiders crowds, when they first started, weren't very big, and then they built Frank Ewell Field, and the Raiders, Al Davis was hired, and in '63 he took over and created a great team. So pretty much in that end of the era where the Raiders first moved to Los Angeles.
Okay, so in the 70s, it looks like they didn't start playing until 1970 because they were in different leagues. Yeah. And the AFL and the NFL were separate at the time, and then they merged in 1970, so they didn't start playing. And their first game was in 1970. The Raiders won 31-14, and then the very next game was they played a regular season game in 1972, and then there was December 23rd, 1972, which will forever be known as the Immaculate Reception game.
Yep. Amazing game. I actually have become friends with some of the Raiders of those eras. I know about that game. And he said what had happened. And what's really interesting is him and Franco Harris are like best friends. So,
wow.
And the Steelers fans may have remembered during the anniversary celebration where they had a statue in Pittsburgh, Phil Villapiano was one of the speakers. So when he came, he said what had happened. And Franco said the same thing. Franco was just kind of jogging downfield. And when Villapiano felt that Franco was pretty much out of the play, he just started running downfield as fast as he could to get to the ball. And then when he saw the ball go up, Franco was kind of startled catch the ball, and then he just ran as fast as he could. So Villapiano said, here I was trying to do the responsible thing. Franco's jogging downfield as a young player without a clue, and the ball comes right to him. So they have a really neat rivalry, but it was a interesting game, and it was true. Villapiano came to the sidelines, and the ref actually did call and ask about security. That if he did change the call, do they have enough security? And the answer was, you're on your own. So I probably would have called it a touchdown too, no matter what, because boy, those Steeler fans, and it was so nice to see the Steelers do well, because for decades they were so bad. And then to see them come up, and they're drafting, and just great coaching with Noel, and just an amazing, I still think it's the greatest defense of all time, the Steel Curtain. And the 70s is the greatest era of all time, as most historians will say. So to have these teams play in such games like this, and ESPN and NFL Network said the Immaculate Reception is the greatest NFL play of all time.
Yeah, just amazing. Are Raider fans still angry about that game? I know
most of them have
Madden
passed
was.
away by now. But no, I think the big play, it's a different era of Raider fans. When they left to LA, it really ruined the magic. I think there was a lot of violence, a lot of gang violence, and it just kind of changed. The magic was kind of gone. It's like having a woman, and you love her, and she's your high school sweetheart. You marry her, and then all of a sudden she cheats with this really good looking guy with a lot of rings on. And then she comes back to you. It's not the same. And I don't think the Raiders have ever been the same since they've left LA. So for most fans now, it's the Tuck rule. The Patriots they hate, Denver they hate. But for old school Raider fans that are still around, it's got to be the Chiefs and the Steelers. That they just hated each other. Greatest rivalry. I think it's the Raiders Steelers. I know it's not the longest, but it's the greatest rivalry of all time. If you go on YouTube, watch the games, because some people and some networks have actually put the entire games that the Raiders and Steelers played, and they are wars. I've never seen guys hit each other so hard in all my life. Just two amazing teams.
It's crazy, yeah. So that was in the Immaculate Reception was in what? That was in 1972. Then in 73, they play each other in the playoffs again, and the Raiders won.
Yeah, and that game most people don't remember. And the Raiders, because everyone thinks that the Raiders, oh my gosh, Pittsburgh dominated them. And in reality, the Raiders had a winning record against the Steelers for most of the 70s. So they were the only team that played the Steelers well. The Steelers beat them 2 out of 3 they had them in the playoffs, but overall the Raiders were right up there with the Steelers. People also forget when the Steelers won the Super Bowl, the Raiders shut them out in Pittsburgh. I believe it was 17-0, and they dominated the Steelers, and the Steelers went on to win the Super Bowl. So to me, those two teams were just the elite teams of the 70s. Just amazing. One time I counted it, and on one game when the Raiders played the Steelers, there were 22 future Hall of Famers.
Crazy.
That's counting the front office, but 22 Hall of Famers. Now, if you have 2 or 3, you're kind of excited.
Yeah. It was almost like an all-star game or something like that. And,
much.
1974, 75, and 76, those were all AFC championship games that they played each other in.
Yep. I mean, they dominated the regular season too. When the Raiders won the Super Bowl, they played that amazing game where the Steelers were dominating the Raiders. They were beating them 28-14 in the fourth quarter, and the Raiders scored a touchdown, intercepted a pass, and I think it was Fred Seifert hit the winning field goal, and the Raiders won 31-28, and that was kind of what put them over. But the rivalry behind the scenes, I mean, Tatum and Swan and all that stuff. There was another story out here with Chuck Noll, who John Madden likes to talk about. He says Chuck Noll was really irate before a game in Oakland, and he went up to John and was yelling at him, and he said, "There's GD rats in our locker room. What kind of junk are you, what kind of stuff are you doing?" Sure, it was much colorful language, but John Madden goes, "Oh, really? We have rats too." So he just was like, this is the Oakland Coliseum. Of course you have rats. So John said that with the Steelers, Chuck Noll always thought they were cheating in some way. And then the Raiders thought they were cheating. They lost that one playoff game where the field, supposedly the water system broke and it froze the field. And that was Cliff Branch's big thing. They struggled guarding Cliff Branch. So Al Davis confronted Pete Rozelle on the field and said, "Look what they did to the field. They watered it." And Pete Rozelle goes, "I don't know you can't do anything. Just can't prove it." So they always had something going on. There was always some sort of drama. Did not like each other. That's just the way it was.
Wasn't there Stickum involved also, that they accused some of the receivers of having stuff on their hands so they could catch the ball better?
Yeah, I forget the substance. Well, when Biletnikoff was there, Stickum was okay, and they accused Biletnikoff of purposely putting Stickum all over himself. So when the ball got back to Bradshaw after the Raiders' drives, Bradshaw would go crazy. He didn't like that stuff on the ball. He liked, a clean ball. He had a great arm, and there were rumors that the Raiders would put it on purpose. They roll it in the mud or the grass, and that Stickum, I don't know if you've ever used it. It's like glue. I mean, nothing. It takes hours to get it off your hands. Wow. And Biletnikoff used to take a tongue depressor and put it in the middle of his socks, about a 4 or 5 inch line in the middle of his calf on both sides, and then he would put it on his wrist and on his hands. So he was just covered in Stickum. And that just made, Bradshaw and the Steelers just insane. So it was just so much drama and so much fun. The NFL just had such a fun time. If it was now, the internet would blow up, because these guys
there would be like isolated cameras on the hands. And
when Tatum did that hit, Chuck Noll called the Oakland Police Department. And he wanted Tatum arrested. He wanted him arrested for felony assault. And,
my goodness!
Oh, it's just unbelievable. So what a rivalry! What amazing teams!
It's a shame they don't play each other that often. Basically, every 2 or 3 years now that they play each other, and it's not the same. But
I miss the cookie cutter stadiums. It was so loud in Three Rivers, and those fans were so amazing. And the Raiders Steelers was must-see TV. You just had to watch it no matter where you were. And people forget, for about a 25-year period, the Raiders and the Cowboys were the number one. They had the number one television ratings for the NFL. But when the Raiders played the Steelers, it was all bets were off. The Raiders actually moved the game here to Cal Berkeley because there was more seats.
Wow.
So they could get the Steelers. So what a rivalry, what teams, great fan bases, both blue collar, tough cities, great gritty football teams, great coaches, just a whole lot of fun. So you miss those days.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're going to play each other this Sunday.
Yeah.
Raiders not doing so great so far this year. What do you think their chances are this Sunday?
I think the Steelers are really licking their wounds. That game hurt them. So I think the Steelers are going to come out a little sluggish. I think eventually, what bothered me a little bit with Pittsburgh is I didn't like them abandoning the run so much in the second half. I thought they passed the ball too much. They get a little pass happy. A lot of the teams do. But I think the Raiders, they don't have the talent. They don't have the pass rush. They are in Oakland. They play better at home. Good tight end. The Steelers have been struggling in the passing game. So they have a chance, but Pittsburgh has more talent. Connor's injury obviously doesn't help. But, boy, it's hard to see the Steelers not winning this game. So I think the Steelers are going to win they'll win going away. I think it'll be by 1 or 2 scores.
Yeah. Yeah, I checked the line. It's actually Steelers are a 17-point favorite.
Yeah, and in the pros, when I used to bet a few shekels, 17's way too high. I wouldn't actually go over 14. I used to gamble a lot, and I never won a